Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 6th of September 2021. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So, a big weekend of news to get through. Basically, I think it was on maybe Friday or Saturday, Ethereum had its first ever deflationary day. Now, what this means is that more fees were burned, I should say, more ETH was burned on the chain that was issued for one of the days. I think it was the 3rd or 4th of September here, and you can see it in the chart, just kind of like the red is the amount of ETH burned from fees, and the blue is the daily block reward, which is more or less constant here. Now, I do want to caveat this by saying that technically, it wasn't a deflationary day because we still have the proof of stake issuance. So this block reward that you see here is only taking into account the proof of work issuance, which is around 4.2 or 4.3% a year, or as you can see here, about 13,600 ETH per day. And we burned more than that, but we didn't burn more than what the proof of stake issuance is, which is about 0.6%, I think, a year right now. But still, that issuance isn't available, isn't on the market because it's locked in ETH2 until after the merge, actually, until withdrawals are enabled. So probably it doesn't make too much sense to count that. But technically, I mean, we weren't deflationary because of that. But if we just take the proof of work kind of issuance, then yes, we were deflationary on that day, thanks to a few NFT drops. I mean, NFTs has just been absolutely insane on the network. The drops just burned so much ETH. I mean, I think we burnt like over 1,000 ETH in 1 hour the other day or something like that. It was just crazy. So, and you can see here kind of like the rise over time since 1559 went live. It really hasn't really slowed down at all. I mean, it kind of like spiked up, and then obviously once 1559 went live, it kind of like leveled out a bit, went down a little bit, but then it's just gone absolutely crazy back up there. And I think obviously it's come down from there over the weekend. Gas has actually been between 50 and 100 Gwei, which is less than it was during the week, but who knows? This week ETH could go to all-time high. I mean, ETH is knocking on $4,000 door. Went to it briefly over the weekend, and as you all know, as the market activity heats up, as the market gets hotter, and as more money floods into this ecosystem, just more activity happens on the Ethereum chain, more speculation, which means the fees go up. And especially if this kind of like NFT bull market continues, then yeah, definitely that's gonna keep happening there. But still cool to see that ETH was able to become deflationary over a whole 24-hour period without the merge. I mean, I've talked about this like plenty of times before about how under proof of work, ETH needs to be kind of like 120, I think, Gwei right now, for the amount of kind of like fees that need to be burned to make up for the block reward, to make it net deflationary. Whereas in proof of stake, it's much less. It would be about 11 or 12 Gwei average kind of base fee. Kind of gas price there. So it's just amazing how much we're burning, really. I mean, we're at over 200,000 now. I think it's 215,000 ETH burned at the time of recording. And it just seems like we're going to get to 1 million within the first 6 months, which is just insane. I mean, I think a lot of people obviously underestimated how much fees we would be burning. And I think the funny thing is that NFT Mania really kind of started taking off the same time 1559 went live, which is just like, I mean, I remember mentioning this on the refuel where I said 1559 was launching into kind of like perfect conditions for what it wanted to do, right? You wanted to burn the most ETH. Well, the perfect conditions are the fees being high. Now, that's not me saying that I like the fact that the fees are really high and all that sort of stuff, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I like or don't like. It just matters what people are using the chain for and what they're willing to pay for, and we have an extremely vibrant layer 2 ecosystem that just continues to get better and better. So from that perspective, I'm going to talk about layer 2 in a bit, but from that perspective, I think that people kind of look at this and go, Ethereans are celebrating that the fees are high. I'm like, yes, okay, I'm celebrating that ETH is being burned for sure, but I'm not celebrating the fact that the fees are high for end users and, users are having a crappy experience and all that sort of stuff. But layer 1, I mean, the fees on layer 1, as I've said plenty of times, are not going to get much cheaper. I mean, I actually can't believe that there were like 5 to 10 Gwei in June, considering that only a couple months later, we're at like 100 plus Gwei again. I remember saying back then on the refuel back in June that wouldn't last, because it was just amazing to me how much it had fallen. And that was simply because of the market. When the market goes very, very quiet, when people kind of like, I guess, enjoy their summer because it was June and all that, then of course network activity is going to go down, and we saw exactly that happen. But now that the bull market seems to be, well and truly back, I mean, as soon as we cross all-time highs again, it's going to get crazier. I do think that network activity is going to persist like this for a while, and we're just going to keep burning ETH. But if you are sick of the fees, then there are plenty of L2s that you can use right now. Obviously Arbitrum went live last week. They're kind of building out their ecosystem, but that's not just them. Optimism, DYDX, Loopring, Diversify, There's plenty out there as well, and you can use Polygon as well. I mean, it's a side chain to Ethereum, but you can still use it. They have a very vibrant DeFi ecosystem over there. So yeah, I mean, when people kind of like say the high fees are shitty, I'm like, I agree, but there are alternatives and solutions for you to use, because Ethereum Layer 1 is not designed to be a layer that end users will sit on long term. It is designed to be a security layer for Layer 2, and I mean, if you don't like that design, then that's fine, but that's kind of like the design that Ethereum's going for at the end of the day. All right, so on to L2. So there is now $1 billion locked in Ethereum L2s, which is a pretty cool thing to see. I mean, I got this chart from this website here called L2Beat.com, which is my favorite website for tracking L2 metrics right now, coupled with Dune Analytics, of course, which is a great tracking site there. But you can see on the 20th of July was kind of like the low point where there was about 400,000 USD locked in L2s. Now it's up to $1 billion. Now, of course, this is going to be influenced by price movements because it's been measured in USDs. Obviously, as the ETH price has gone up, this has increased as well. But the TVL across a lot of these solutions has increased too, just generally. Not just because of the ETH price, but you can see here in the table that Arbitrum has increased 8,800% in the last 7 days, up to $66 million in there. The leader DYDX has $285 million, and then you go down the list here and you can see all the ones that have a lot of kind of like value locked in them. And speaking of the L2Beat website, I really love this website because it has this risks kind of table here. Now, this basically shows you kind of like what each L2, like I guess like what trade-offs each L2 is taking right now, what can be done. Are your funds at risk? Can you be censored? Is it secure or not? All those kind of things there. And you can see here, what's the state validation? Like, are they using ZK proofs? Are they using fraud proofs, which is kind of like part of the kind of like optimistic scenario? Are they disabled? Like Optimism has proofs disabled right now. What's the data availability like? Is it on-chain or is it external? I think I've spoken about this on the Refuel before, how you can have external data availability, which brings with it some extra trust assumptions, or you can have on-chain data availability. The reason why you would have external or off-chain data availability would be for kind of extra scale, because you obviously don't have to put the data on chain, so you get more extra scale out of that. And you can see here that there are a few kind of like external ones here, but a lot of them are on chain as well. Are the contracts upgradable? So can the code that I guess like secures the system be upgraded to do anything essentially? And upgradable means that anything can be changed in those contracts. And you can see that pretty much all of them are yes. There are some notable ones that are no, like Nami, Layer 2 Finance, and Fuel Labs here. And there's delays on some of them as well. So, is there a time lock on kind of like the upgradability? So if there is kind of like a malicious upgrade put in place, well, then you have, in this case of ZK Sync, you have 2 weeks to react to that to get your funds out. And you can see what happens, if the operator is censoring you on L2. What's your kind of like exit plan here? Well, you can force exit to L1 through some of them, or you can transact using L1 or exit to L1. But this is really the kind of like and the same kind of thing for like the operator being down. Like, is there an escape hatch? Can you basically exit with your funds out of the bridge trustlessly? And you can't with a lot of these. And this is exactly why L2s are secure by Ethereum, or why kind of people are really bullish on L2s, is because they give you this option. So even if the L2 goes offline, censors you, does something weird, gets attacked, whatever it is, you still have the ultimate option of withdrawing your funds from the bridge contract that I explained on, I think, one of last week's refuels, that essentially by kind of like force exiting out, yes, it may take 7 days in the optimistic rollup case to get your funds out, but you can still always get your funds out. And that applies to pretty much every L2 if constructed correctly. But you can see here, Layer 2 Finance doesn't currently have any mechanism to kind of like avoid censorship or avoid the operator being down, but pretty much all the other ones do. So yeah, this is kind of like the most bullish part of Layer 2, why people get really excited about it. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of describe that table to you guys. You can go check this. I mean, L2Beat doesn't just have tables and like fancy kind of charts with dollar values. You can click into it, and they'll explain in detail what each of these things are. Like, this is all the information you're pretty much going to need about L2s, how they work, links to their bridge contracts, links to more information, all that sort of stuff. It's amazing how much information is on here, and I'm really, really loving this website. So definitely go check this out. But still cool to see, this growth up to $1 billion TVL. This is going to get much, much kind of larger. I guess like the more the ecosystem goes on. Ethereum Layer 1's TVL is $100 billion right now. I think there's a few other chains that have between 5 and 10 billion. I know Polygon's POS chain has 5.5 billion. And this is the reason why it's going to keep growing is because we're going to have incentives as well. There's going to be liquidity mining and all that sort of stuff. But also just generally, there's going to be exchanges that support bridging in, like Coinbase adding support and things like that. So yeah, I mean, obviously this is going to be up only for a while. I believe there's no reason why it shouldn't be, especially if the fees remain high, which I believe they will, if the market kind of keeps being hot as I expect it will going forward. So yeah, get on an L2 if you haven't yet. Try one of them out. I think people often ask me what they think is my best L2 experience so far. If I had to pick something that was kind of like a fully fledged kind of insulated experience where it's just doing one thing and doing one thing really well, I would say that DYDX has been my favorite experience so far. It's a perpetual exchange. You can go leverage long or leverage short on there, and you can do that with pretty much any asset that they've supported, and it's all kind of like synthetic. So you just deposit USDC in and withdraw USDC out, but while you're in the roll-up, you can go kind of do whatever you want on DYDX, and it's just super smooth. I mean, I haven't had any issues with it. Signing in is really smooth. Being able to kind of like do everything on there with, super cheap kind of like fees and everything like that, instant transactions, stuff like that. I mean, technically not instant. I kind of sometimes see people kind of getting tripped up about this. I do want to explain that. You know how when you do a transaction on these L2s, it feels instant? Well, it's instant in the sense that the sequencer has processed it, or the block producer, whatever you want to call it, has processed it for you instantly. But until it's actually settled on layer 1, it is not considered finalized or settled, right? As it would be if you were doing a transaction on layer 1 and then 15 seconds, so it gets included in a block on layer 1, then technically it's been settled. On layer 2, you have to wait until kind of like your transactions are batched and put onto L1 for it to be considered settled. So yes, the user experience is great that we can kind of say, hey, your transaction confirmed instantly, but it's not actually settled on chain until the batch is kind of put on there. And that means that if there's like an hour between batches and something goes wrong, or you want to force exit your funds out, well then what ends up happening from my understanding is that hour of activity that happened would be kind of like erased if you exited before the batch was posted there. But I'm not totally sure on that. I have to check up on that, but that's from my understanding. But yeah, essentially that's kind of like the trade-off you have there. But anyway, I'm going to move on from this. We've got a lot more to kind of cover today. So Joseph here from the Ethereum Foundation announced that there is another core dev apprenticeship program happening. So the second cohort, you can apply today, and I'll link this in the YouTube description for those who want to apply here. The deadline to apply is September 13th, and the program will run from September 21st to September 21 to February 22. So as in, September 2021 to February 2022. And you can see this post here for more detail and apply. I went over I went over this kind of like apprenticeship program a few weeks ago, or maybe a couple months ago, when the first cohort was kind of, I guess, getting onboarded. From everything that I've heard, it's been great. Like, I've been speaking to some of the people at the Ethereum Foundation and kind of like following along loosely here, and apparently it's been really good. People have been energized and have really kind of like been passionate about this. So definitely, if you are interested in Ethereum core development, this is pretty much the path to be on. This is how you get involved. This is how you basically become an Ethereum core developer. But I would say that unless you have experience already with protocol stuff, or at least have some kind of knowledge here, you probably won't get accepted if you apply, because there's only limited spots, of course, and they're going to probably take the most experienced because they are the ones that are going to probably have the most chance of success here. So obviously there's not many people that can do this, but if you're one of them, definitely go kind of apply here and make yourself known so that you can possibly be part of this second cohort. All right, so there was this kind of news article that the block put out yesterday where a senator in the US called whose name is Elizabeth Warren. She's pretty popular. She's a Democrat. I've heard of her a lot of times. I've seen her pop up a lot. But she basically said crypto is the new shadow bank. Now, the hilarious thing about Elizabeth Warren is that she ran, I think in 2008, she ran her campaign on being like anti-financial corruption, going against the banks, wanting to fix everything, wanted to clean up everything. And now she's attacking the very thing that is doing that. Because as I put in my tweet here, I said, The TradFi system is the actual shadow bank, right? The traditional system, the banking system that everything is kind of like opaque. You don't actually know what's going on. Tracking the money is very, very hard. Regular citizens have no idea what's going on. The only people who do are the government regulatory bodies, and they probably don't have any idea what's going on either, or at least have a limited view of things. And that's how we get things like the 2008 financial crisis and other stuff like that. But then I went on to say, the reason it's the very reason we're building DeFi, this new decentralized, censorship-resistant, transparent, permissionless, and global financial system, is the reason. That is the very reason, because the TradFi system has failed us. It is just not transparent at all. It's obviously not decentralized. It has failed us many times in the past over the decades. It's unfair. It's not permissionless. It kind of like favors the incumbents and does not let people kind of, I guess, get themselves kind of like in a better standing in kind of life and stuff like that. And I mean, I don't have to explain the kind of crap that has happened in the traditional finance system. And then I kind of ended my tweet saying Elizabeth Warren either needs to get educated or get out of the way. I don't think that she's going to get educated. She's had ample opportunity at this point to get educated. She's had this explained to her many, many times in the past. I just think that either she's been captured by the banking lobby, which would be ironic, but I don't know that for sure. I haven't really looked into it, but that would be like my first kind of thought. Or she just doesn't care to kind of learn, and she's kind of just seeing the surface level stuff. Because as I've mentioned on the refill before, if you just look at crypto at the surface level, all you see is like scams and rug pulls, because that's what the media loves to, and lots of speculation, because that's what the media loves to harp on about. But if you actually dig beneath the surface and actually see what's going on here, what we're actually building, it'd be very hard to come away from that with you thinking that we should, you should increase regulations on this industry, or that it's like a shadow banking system. Like, I don't understand how you can say it's a shadow banking system when everything is transparent on the blockchain. Like, you can see everything. I mean, everyone can see what everyone else is doing, and you can, not only that, you can audit the funds on the different kind of contracts. Like right now, I could go to MakerDAO smart contracts and see exactly how much ETH is backing up DAI. I don't have to trust, their website to tell me the truth. I don't have to trust other websites to tell me the truth. I can go to Etherscan or kind of like a number of other websites, but obviously I'm trusting Etherscan to tell me the truth. But if I really want to, I can run the full node myself and query it and check the balance myself and verify it. So I can't do that with the traditional system at all. I can't download a node that gives me a full global view of the entire financial system. That's what you can do with Ethereum. This is the most amazing thing that I don't think people realize, is that if Ethereum does become the backbone of the new decentralized financial system for the entire world, well, then anyone in the world with consumer hardware can just download a copy of the blockchain, verify everything for themselves without the need, verify everything for themselves for everyone, like for the entire system. Like, could you imagine trying to do that for the traditional finance system today? It's impossible, because you would have to get the data from various different countries and in very different forms. Like, there's a lot of countries that probably still run on most of it on paper at the end of the day. So, and I mean, it'd just be insane to try and get that. I mean, it'd probably be a fun exercise to do, to try and get that information. But not only can't you get that information, you're not allowed to. They're not going to give it to you. The banks aren't going to give you their internals. They're not going to give you everything that's going on there. Even if you're a regulatory body, they're still only going to give you what they're legally required to give you. Whereas with Ethereum, you can get everything. And obviously that there's privacy concerns there, but even if we have these transactions being private, they still follow the rules of the network, and you can still verify them to make sure that it's all playing nicely with the network. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like these politicians are just so out of touch when it comes to crypto, and it's dangerous because they are the ones legislating these things. They are the ones with the power of the kind of like centralized system. Obviously, they can't stop truly decentralized systems on Ethereum, but they can stifle it. I saw some comments from maybe Elizabeth Warren and Jay Powell, who basically said, we can basically kill stablecoins by making it illegal for them to be backed by dollars in a bank account, or at least US-based bank accounts. I mean, yes, you could do that, and yes, you could choke decentralized exchange, fiat, on ramps and all that sort of stuff. But what ends up happening is that short term, you may have a little bit of a victory. Long term, you absolutely destroy all of the economic activity that could have happened in the US, because what's going to happen is the people are just going to move their funds, or at least the issuers of these stablecoins are going to move their funds out of US-based banks, and they're going to take them overseas, and then you just lose all that, because there are definitely going to be countries who want this economic activity for themselves. So I feel like if the US goes down this path of heavily regulating crypto, they're going to lose and lose big, like very, very big. I feel so strongly that crypto is going to take over the world over the next kind of like 10, 20 years, that if the US does this, they will lose their superpower status. And I mean, they're already losing it to an extent, to kind of like China and stuff like that due to various other reasons. But if they miss crypto, they stand to lose a lot. And I really hope that we can have these politicians listen to us, listen to our lobbying efforts, all that sort of stuff. So that they don't kind of like put the US into this position, but we'll have to wait and see. And it's not just the US, right? It's like a lot of other countries as well that have the same kind of politicians who don't understand this, refuse to get educated about it, and regulate it before they even understand it. And Australia is pretty similar to the US in that regard. I think the UK would be too. Other parts of Europe, Asia is kind of a different depending where you go. It seems Singapore's taking a little bit of a harder stance, and China's definitely taking a pretty hard stance as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what the geopolitical sphere looks like over the coming years. But the US has a unique opportunity to be kind of like the beacon of light for the rest of the Western world, and I hope they do that. But I'm not holding my breath, that's for sure. So speaking of lobbying politicians, there was this project that the Universe.xyz project spun up called Lobby Lobsters, which is basically an NFT profile picture project. There's 10,000 of these little guys, and you can mint them for 0.1 ETH each, plus gas fees, of course, which were really, really expensive. I minted 10 of these, and it cost me $2,000 in gas fees. So yeah, a lot of gas fees. But anyway, and obviously minting 10 cost me 1 ETH as well, which all up, that's a lot of money. $6,000 right there just to mint and gas fees. But anyway, that money is not going to the Universe team or whatever, or the DAO. That money is going to lobbying efforts. So you can see here, 100% of the money will be donated to lobbying efforts and to kind of like get in front of these politicians in the US or elsewhere, which is why I kind of did this. Like, I mean, if I can maybe sell some of these and recoup my kind of gas fees, that'd be cool, whatever. But I'm not really looking to kind of like make any kind of any money of this or whatever. I just wanted to kind of donate to a good cause while also getting some, I guess, kind of like cool little NFTs here. I like the look of these. Some people didn't like them, but I like the look at some of these. I don't think any of the ones I got are super rare either. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. The point of why I'm bringing this up is not the NFTs, but more so the kind of stuff around public goods funding here. I talk about this a lot on the Refuel. I talk about Gitcoin a lot. I talk about other kind of like initiatives that people do to kind of give money to public goods, like what Optimism is doing with their centralized layer 2 sequencer, how they're all the profit that they get is going to be retroactively going towards these public goods. But I think we can take this like so much further than what we are. I think every NFT project should be doing this. You don't have to donate all the proceeds. You can even just donate 1% of the proceeds or 10% or whatever. And it's not even just like these profile picture projects, but like any kind of NFTs or any NFT platforms and any DeFi platforms. I mean, there's been instances of these platforms doing this stuff before. If you remember back to the Yam project from DeFi Summer, they were kind of like donating to Gitcoin, but depending on the rebasing and stuff like that. And there were other kind of treasuries out there that donate. I mean, I covered last week, I think it was, maybe the week before, that 6 or 7 projects within the Ethereum ecosystem gave $250,000 each to Ethereum core development. So there's no reason we can't do this. The money's there. It's just we need to direct the money in such a way that it gets to where we want it to be, which is public goods funding. Now, obviously, Gitcoin is probably the leader here, but I don't think Gitcoin has to be that central point. It has to be the only solution. We can get solutions from everywhere. We don't have to rely on just Gitcoin. So I wrote a bit more about this in the Daily Way newsletter today. You can go check that out. But I did just want to kind of like give a shout out there to Lobby Lobsters for kind of like, I guess, leading the charge here. I thought it was a really cool effort and a really good initiative. So I put this tweet out where I said, the Polygon ecosystem is pretty amazing. Now, before I go into why, I want to disclose that I'm an advisor to Polygon, for those of you who don't know. Most of you know that by now. But I was kind of going through Polygon's website and kind of like looking at everything they had shipped or kind of like was in development. I was like, wow, like everyone thinks that the Polygon ecosystem is just the POS chain, which is funny because the POS chain is not anything to scoff at. There's $5 billion worth of TVL in there, and it has like most of the popular DeFi apps that you would want to use. It has really nice bridges going in and out. Coinbase is going to support the POS chain before they support any of the Ethereum L2s. So I mean, and this has given kind of like people a cheaper DeFi experience. Yes, it's not as decentralized as Ethereum or whatever, but it's given people a nice kind of like DeFi experience while staying within the Ethereum family. But besides the POS chain, they have the Polygon SDK, which is basically SDK stands for Software Development Kit. It's basically a set of kind of like smart contracts and other sorts of tools for developers to use, and that's live right now. So devs can use this to kind of like improve their toolkit or improve their contracts and improve their product or whatever on Polygon and the POS chain and L2s and stuff like that. And then obviously there was the merger between Polygon and Polygon Hermes here, where Hermes already has a live ZK rollup on Ethereum. You can go use it now, and they're obviously going to be doing more kind of like ZK or zero knowledge kind of rollup stuff as well. Polygon Avail, which is a new data availability blockchain, that's in DevNet right now. They announced this the other day, and they also committed after the merger of Hermes and Polygon, they committed $1 billion to zero knowledge research. Now, for anyone who's been paying attention to ZK rollup, zero knowledge research, you would know that the long-term kind of like, I guess, consensus among the smartest people I know at least is that zero-knowledge tech and zero-knowledge rollups are going to eat everything when it comes to scaling, privacy, just in general kind of like crypto stuff. It's zero-knowledge proofs and zero-knowledge kind of like rollups are magic. And that's why Polygon has kind of seen this and they've been like, okay, well, we're going to commit like a lot of money to this effort, to research and development here, which is incredibly bullish. And I say at the bottom, this is just the beginning for Polygon because I truly believe it is. They have so much in the pipeline. They have so much coming. There's so much that they're doing. They're onboarding so many people. And I couldn't be prouder to be an advisor to this project, honestly. Like it's exceeded my expectations as well of what they... from where they came from. I mean, before they were Polygon, they were Matic, the Matic network, and hardly anyone knew about them, and hardly anyone was using them. Then they rebranded the Polygon, kind of like had this POS chain. They have the Plasma chain as well, but that's not really used too much because the POS chain is better. And then they started releasing all these other things like the SDK. They merged with Hermes. They got this Avail thing that they're building, and they're committing like $1 billion to research here. I just think that if you just focus on the POS chain, you're really missing the forest for the trees when it comes to Polygon. Their ecosystem is awesome, and I'm really, really happy to be able to kind of like be on the journey with them. But so all of you. I mean, it's not just, you don't have to be an advisor to be on the journey with them. You can essentially do anything you want. Like if you're a developer, you can go check out the SDK. If you want to check out Hermes' ZK rollup, you can go play with the POS chain. Go look at the Polygon Avail, see if you can add some value there, or even kind of like get involved with their research efforts of zero knowledge stuff. The kind of like the world is your oyster when it comes to this sort of stuff. But anyway, just wanted to give a kind of like Polygon shout out there. And speaking of the Polygon and Hermes merger, you can now swap your Hez tokens for Matic tokens. If you hold Hez tokens, you just go to this website, hez2matic.hermes.io. I'll link this in the YouTube description, and you can just quickly swap your Hez to Matic tokens here. So for every one Hez, you get 3.5 Matic tokens as per the snapshot that they took on August 4th. So definitely go check this out. So 0x0000F5 here put out a kind of like GIF showing that they built a serverless Discord bot to authenticate users with Ethereum, which is essentially sign in with Ethereum. So you can basically kind of like click on this, authorize it, sign via MetaMask, and then kind of like jump into Discord and kind of like it'll recognize that you were, by using this bot, it'll recognize that you signed in with your Ethereum address. Now, there's not just this, there's other ones as well. There's Colab Land, which a lot of Discord communities use, and I've used it in the past, where you can essentially sign and by signing the transaction, you prove that you have like an NFT to enter the Discord, or you prove that you have some tokens to enter that Discord channel. But still, it's cool to see more kind of like stuff going on here. And I mean, this is on GitHub as well. If you want to go check it out, it's all kind of open source. So yeah, really, really cool to see alternatives happening here. So CryptoFees has added a layer 2 section to their website. So if you go to cryptofees.info, you can see different layer 2s. Now, Optimism was already on there, but they've got like Arbitrum on here as well. They've got different kind of like... of apps on these layer 2s. So you can see Arbitrum. If I click here, you can see how much fees it's generating. Go to more details. You can kind of like see charts and stuff like that. Go back here. If you want to sort just by layer 2s, you just go to filters, layer 2, and then you can kind of see the two layer 2s here. And then you can kind of sort by blockchain as well. So Arbitrum 1, you can see, what SushiSwap is doing, what Uniswap is doing, and what Balance is doing on Arbitrum 1 here. Or you can just switch it through Optimism, and then, Polygon, all that sort of stuff. So I think this is really really cool. This is a really useful website. I use it all the time. I love tracking all the fees. I always love to see that Optimism, one layer 2 on Ethereum, is without incentives, is already doing more daily fee revenue than pretty much all the other layer 1 blockchains. I mean, you can see here that it's doing more than Avalanche, and even over the last 7-day average fee as well, 7 days, sorry, it's doing more than Avalanche, it's doing more than Cardano. I mean, Cardano can't really do much besides kind of staking. It's doing more than Terra, Phantom. I mean, Dogecoin, like, is even more than some of the other ones. So, yeah, it's great to see that the layer 2s are kind of making their mark here. I think Arbitrum's one data maybe kind of like lagged here, or maybe not be tracking it correctly, because it would definitely be higher than that. But yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see if that updates. But yeah, this is one of my favorite sites. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. Speaking of, I guess, like metrics around layer 2s, Dune Analytics now has an Optimism dashboard. So you can go here and look at all the stats for Optimistic Ethereum. So once this loads, you'll be able to see. It's loading it up here. Yeah, so basically there's a bunch of different metrics on here. Total transactions per day, unique users over time. If it wants to load, there we go. Unique users over time. Yeah, total transactions per day. Cool to see that there's over 40,000 unique users now that have kind of like used Optimism. Total transactions per day seems to have kind of like, I guess, like spiked a little bit during the heat of the market, kind of come down a little bit and kind of like kind of leveled out here. Then you can see average transaction cost in ETH, gas price per day, all that sort of stuff. And there's tons of kind of information here. So if you want to check this out, I'll link it in the YouTube description. But good to see more metrics coming out around L2s. I always love tracking the metrics for L2s. So Brantley, speaking of metrics, Brantley put out a tweet here saying that August was a monster month for ENS stats. Most new .eth registrations ever, 33.6k, so 33,000, all on ETH-LL1. And despite the high gas prices, most protocol revenue by a long shot, $2.6 million of protocol revenue for ENS in kind of like August alone, 527 ETH worth of secondary sales on OpenSea, 6.2 times the volume in June, and now at 281 integrations. He's got a bunch of little kind of like dashboards here from Dune Analytics that tracks all of this. So if you want to check these out, I'll link them in the YouTube description as well. And finally, Brantley also teased an early look at the redesign of the ENS Manager app. Now, if you guys have been on the ENS Manager app, you'll know that it's pretty outdated at this point. It doesn't give you much information. It doesn't really do much, but you can see here on the early look is that you'll be able to edit a lot more about your kind of like ENS and basically create an entire profile out of it. As you can see in the screenshot here, you can put your CryptoPunk as your kind of like profile picture. You can have a bio, you can have like your different accounts linked here, your different addresses for different chains, all that sort of stuff. So this is just looking really, really awesome. And I can't wait for this to kind of like be live. I definitely want to use this to show off my on-chain profile, that's for sure. But anyway, I think that is it for today. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give that video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone.